Hello, my name's Lucy Hughes. I am the creator of MarinaTex, and I'm also a recent graduate in product design. And this is also me. I am an avid diver. I've been diving since I was 12, so that's half my life. And this was kind of the first time that my love for the ocean was really cemented. I had a chance to go into the local schools and tell them that what we had found from our dives, and also find out what they knew about the ocean and what they knew about what was inside the ocean and also what the effects of it were. And what really struck me is that they did not have the same view that I had. They viewed the ocean in a very utilitarian way. They used it for food, they used it for transport, they used it for their livelihoods. And they didn't use it like I used it, which was to kind of revel and marvel. The ocean puts on an extremely brave face, and it's very much out of sight, out of mind. And it's at that point that I realized that someone needed to be the voice for the ocean, which led me to a kind of crossroads, or keeping it sea-related, a delta.
It's written on the wall. Tell me back to your sea. The greatest call.
Yeah. I had studied maths, psychology, and 3D design, so that does not get you onto a marine biology course. But what it does get you onto is a product design course.
If at first you don't succeed, try again, even if it's more than 100 times. That's exactly what Lucy Hughes did in the kitchen of her student apartment in Sussex. She spent months experimenting with fish skin and scales to create a material that could replace oil-based plastic.
I created Marina-Tex for my final year project. It's a biodegradable material sourced from organic materials, so using waste from the fishing industry, combining that with binders from the sea, so that's using red algae, so Agar from red algae, and combining it to create a plastic film alternative.
It was at this point that I was introduced to the ideas of form and function, and that are the two pillars. Those are the two pillars of design. It has to look amazing and it has to function better than expected.
According to the United Nations, the fishing industry produces more than 50 million tons of waste each year. Lucy wanted to reduce waste from the fishing industry and at the same time create a biodegradable plastic to replace single-use plastics used for shopping bags and food packaging.
When I felt the skins and the scales in my hands, I could sort of see that there was potential locked up in it. It was so flexible yet pliable and strong. So it's kind of struck me that nature can make so much from so little. Why do we need to have hundreds of man-made polymers when nature has so many already available?
And at this point, I found myself at another crossroads, because I had seen the effects of consumerism and the effects of what products have on the environment and what stresses that they were offering, what stresses they were placing on the environment.
38 companies have been fined for dumping toxic wastewater into sewers. They were fined more than $250,000 between June 2018 and May this year. PUB says such wastewater contained high concentrations of metals, chemicals, and hazardous substances.
Formosa Plastics Corporation is facing over $121,000 in state fines for polluting a tributary of Lavaca Bay. Most of the fines are in connection with 6 separate pollution events on Cox Creek, which empties into the bay. Now, tons of plastic pellets were discharged from the Formosa plant at Point Comfort and ended up in the creek. Environmentalists say that the fines are just a slap on the wrist, but
Local researchers found that Korea's freshwater ecosystem is prone to pollution due to discarded plastic. Cho Sung-min has more.
National Ocean Service reports that 80% of pollution in the marine environment comes from the land, much of it plastic debris. The small aquatic organisms and fish that maintain these ecosystems consume the plastic and eventually die from it.
An environmental watchdog group has released a startling statistic. Since Donald Trump took office, fines for corporate polluters have fallen by more than 60%. Instead of holding corporations accountable when they poison our air and our water and even our people, they appear to be getting a free pass from the current administration. Of course, this isn't much of a surprise considering how connected our government is to industry.
And I started to feel that something was missing. And what was missing was this third pillar, or this third circle, which is the footprint. And very often in design, that's kind of an afterthought. The main two pillars are form and function, and the footprint. So what I mean by the footprint, that's how is it manufactured, what happens to it at the end of life, and also what materials are used in it.
Lucy says Marina-Tex can be mass-produced cheaply because it's made in low temperatures, unlike conventional plastics. A small amount of fish waste can go a long way. Waste from one Atlantic cod can produce 1,400 bags. And if Marina-Tex ends up in the ocean, Lucy says it wouldn't be a problem for marine life because they can safely eat it.
It's not necessarily plastic that's the problem, it's actually our dependency on and how we have used it, which has become an issue. So it's our overuse of, for example, single-use plastics that might be used for only 10 to 15 seconds before we then have to throw that away.
Her invention has won the James Dyson Award, a worldwide design competition that encourages university students.
As soon as I was old enough, our family would try and get under the water. When you see bits of rubbish in the ocean, or when you see that environment be sort of soiled by waste, it's kind of an eye-opener. It's not just other people in other countries that have this disconnect with the ocean. It struck me that it's us as well. The thing with the ocean is it's very much out of sight, out of mind. It kind of doesn't really have a voice of its own, and people need to be the voice for the ocean. Typically, we design in quite a linear way. So we take things from the earth, we make something with it, and then we dispose of it. So I kind of started with understanding that there were materials used in the wrong places. I then went on a quest for an organic binder, and through different experiments, found a formula that worked to create a bioplastic. So Marina-Tex is particularly suited to single-use applications, and this is because it takes between 4 and 6 weeks to decompose in a home compostable environment. So I submitted to the James Dyson Awards because I thought there was a sort of need for this product, and it solved a real-world problem. The life cycle of the product ends when the user then disposes of that product. So this is the true design challenge. An engineer is a problem solver. So for me, a good design is something that bridges the gap between behaviours, business, and our planet.
The convicted firms include Satsang Packaging, which is being penalized for the 6th time. The company discharged 10 times the allowed limit of copper. Metal treatment company 3N Chemplate was fined over $13,000. That was for discharging high levels of boron and cyanide. The fine was the 3rd highest among all the companies.
A research team from Konkuk University has discovered that plastic waste that destroys oceanic ecosystems can have the same impact on freshwater environments. The researchers used water fleas that live in Korean lakes and rivers to find out exactly how badly plastic waste affects freshwater ecosystems. The translucent water fleas, called Daphnia galeata, were put in water along with tiny fluorescent plastic particles no bigger than 5 square millimeters. The test revealed each water flea was exposed to an average of 5 milligrams of plastic per liter, preventing more than 80% of the water flea's eggs from hatching. Water fleas are at the bottom of the aquatic food chain. They keep rivers and ponds habitable for other plants and fish. Researchers say the tests show just how bad the negative impact of plastic is on freshwater ecosystems. Moreover, they stressed the importance of keeping the freshwater ecosystem pristine and said they're conducting further studies to come up with ways to minimize damage when plastic waste is being dumped into local rivers and lakes.
It's significant in that, not that it's a big amount of money, because really it's pennies compared to what the company brings in, but it's a sign that the environmental agency is recognizing that there is a problem. And so there's other issues that will come along with that in the future.
The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality is expected to require Formosa to conduct semi-annual pellet cleanups and follow reports on its action.
Coming out to talk about that is Farron Cousins. He's the executive editor for the Trial Lawyer magazine. Farron, incredible. I mean, what's happened in the last 6 months? You talk about the corporate payoff.
Oh, absolutely. And that's exactly what corporations wanted. What's happened in the last 6-7 months is that they're getting everything they've ever wanted, which was a 60%, they'd prefer 100% reduction in these fines. When they do go out there and they dump things into our water or spew things into the atmosphere, they are not being held accountable. Now, don't get me wrong. All right, enforcement was very lax under Obama and Bush and Clinton before him. But even with that lax enforcement, things have essentially at this point just absolutely fallen off a cliff. And we're not getting those fines and punishments, essentially, that we need to have in this country.
It isn't part of the problem. I mean, corporate America is making so much money right now. I mean, they're making more than they've ever made in the history of this planet. Literally. That is not a statistic that's overstated. So with all that money, aren't they able to go to the agencies? And they're able to get the folks that are working for the agencies to come to work with them. They say, you know, Joe, when you get done with what you're doing, come talk to us. We have about a $400,000 paycheck for you. That goes on every day. And it's like the American public actually believes that the EPA or the FDA or the SEC is out protecting them. What is your take on that?
Well, that's absolutely true. You know, we've seen this in full swing for the last 17 years, really, where either the people running these regulatory agencies came from industry, or once they leave there, they go right into industry. They're not there to hold people accountable. They're not there to do their jobs. They're making job connections. They're trying to meet people that they know they can send a resume to once they leave office, instead of somebody that they can send a fine or a subpoena to while they're serving this country. And they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're worried about their own career and longevity.
Yeah, they actually call these positions career holding places. Career holding places. Really quickly, what are the fines that we pull from? What are the important fines that we're seeing differences with?
Well, the big thing is that we need these fines. This isn't just about we want to take your money. We use those fines to clean up the water, to clean up the air, to clean up the environment, to provide medical monitoring for people when they get poisoned. That's what these fines are about. And if we do not pull those in, we do not clean up the mess that corporations have caused.
Taxpayers have to fit the bill.
Correct.
What the corporation does is they put all their garbage in a river, for example, and they say, we made a big profit by not having to do this right. Now let's let the taxpayers have to pay for this cleanup, and our stockholders are going to make a lot more money. That's exactly the process, and that goes on every day in this country. And it's under Trump, apparently, it's happening more and more.
Well, plastic pollution is one of the biggest environmental issues. We've all seen the images of single-use plastic items floating in oceans, impacting wildlife. But a new material could help tackle that problem. Marina-Tex is made from fish offcuts, and importantly, it biodegrades at room temperature. It's just won a Global Innovation Award. And it was invented by Lucy Hughes, who joins me now from Brighton. Lucy, welcome. I understand you have some Marina-Tex to show us. What does it look like?
I do, yeah. I've got some here. I'm not sure if you'd be able to see much of that because it's pretty see-through.
Yeah, and take us through, what's so special about it? I understand that it's the result of a student project.
Yeah, so this is the project of my undergraduate project. So we have 1 year to do a final year project, and I decided to see if I could use fish waste and help the plastic problem.
And so how did you go about inventing this?
So my project actually began at a fish processing plant down in New Haven in England, and I kind of went to the processing plants and saw that there was just basically like so much potential locked up in the skins and the scales when I felt them in my hand. And it was from there that I did research and many experiments to see if I could then make it into something that could be used as a product.
And Lucy, I mean, this is the holy grail in the material science world, isn't it? Trying to come up with some kind of plastic alternative that's truly environmentally friendly, truly biodegradable. What's been the reaction of other scientists to your work?
Well, I don't think that there's going to be one silver bullet that can solve the entire problem. So I think that the reaction I've had has actually been really positive, and there's a lot of demand for this product. As you've said, it's the holy grail, but the issue is actually getting it to manufacture. So I've had a really warm response from other people working in the same field about how we could all collaborate to get these on the shelves as fast as possible.
And just briefly, how long before we might see this on our supermarket shelves or in stores?
It's a really tough question. But I would love to see it in the coming years. But I'm at the mercy of my R&D, but hopefully within 3 years.
Okay, Lucy Hughes, thank you very much for speaking to us.
It's at that point that I realised that someone needed to be the voice for the ocean. I started to look at how valuable waste could be. So that tree, for example, was not wasting that waste or secondary product, it was using it as nutrients. I could then look into bioplastics and how materials could be made using other materials that nature has provided. The next step was to experiment, and because I did design, there wasn't huge amounts of limits on me. I learned everything retroactively and could really take science and basically throwing as many what-ifs as possible.
You carry all your burdens on the cross around your neck. You take whatever's left that you could salvage from the wreck. And the hard past will follow you like a lost dog on the beach, nipping at your trail till you've drifted out of reach. Yeah, turn around, there's nothing to see here. Run away, no reason to be here. It's the ghost who never goes away. Turn around and leave us behind now. See the ground as it leads to the sky now. You fight the sea, you're always gonna drown. In a broken line horizon, in the castles made of sand, you tried to hold it in your hands, you tried to understand it. But the ocean asks the questions, and it holds the answers too. It dissolves away the lies about the things you thought you knew.